Welcome back. I'm Brandon with Hero Mastery, and your greatest adventure for today is to go over the crisis of meaning that we are experiencing in society. This is the first foundational video of the Start Here playlist, which explains all of the foundational concepts that Hero Mastery, the brand Hero Mastery, is built on. And this one is critical to understand. So if you haven't watched the channel welcome video and even the introduction to this playlist, I'd highly recommend doing that, but it's not totally necessary either. So let's get into it. Here we are at the crisis of meaning. So let's start off with imagining something. If there was an enemy in your life, a personal supervillain, your arch nemesis, what if they weren't trying to kill you per se or take your life? But what if they were trying to maximize your misery? Let's say that they were digging tunnels under your house, laced your food with poison, not to kill you, but just to make your life miserable. Wiretapping you, following you everywhere to use every detail against you. Again, not to take you out all at once, but to make your life as miserable as possible. Would you want to know? Would you want the power to overcome it? This really is the essence of what is happening behind the scenes of the crisis of meaning. Society is made of individuals, and you or people that you know have been made a victim of this crisis of meaning, which really is a crisis of enslavement. And we'll touch more on that in just a little bit here. If you can't see what's happening more clearly and why it's happening, and where it's leading, then you really can't overcome it. When you can see something, you can change something. If you can't see something, well, you're probably going to be stuck experiencing the very same things that you've been experiencing. So very important. I've got this fellow here. Maybe if you've seen the Disney Pixar movie, The Incredibles, this is the supervillain from The Incredibles. His name is Syndrome. And he is very... the ideology that he promotes is very interesting. And I want to touch on that for just a moment here. So Syndrome, he doesn't really want to destroy you, or he didn't want to destroy the main characters of the Incredibles movie. But let's apply it to you. He doesn't really want to destroy you necessarily. He just wants to make you wish that you were. That you wish that you were done. Wish that you were destroyed. And how does he do this? By taking away your ability to reach your full potential. Taking that away. Take away somebody's ability to reach their full potential. And, well, if they didn't even know that what the possibilities were, then that is called pacifism, or being pacified into a state of carnal security, a place where people are easily manipulated and easily controlled. So, doesn't want to destroy you necessarily, but wants to make you wish that you were, if you had any kind of idea presented to you what you were capable of, which we do have in this life, all over the place, because that is the purpose of this life, or one way to put the purpose of this life, is to reach your full potential. So taking that away is something that is quite sinister, and something that we'll explore more later in future videos. Everything that we cover in this video here, it has ancient origins. Even if you would be open to considering before the world was even formed, from the foundation of the world. A lot of these foundational ideas were present. So, but we'll save that for future videos to go into that more in depth. So, quick overview of the rest of the content. This is a foundational overview. This is not going to be a deep dive into the concept of the crisis of meaning. We could talk about it for hours. And really explore all the fundamental things for a long time and very in depth. So we're going to be covering topics that touch on the meaning of life, but even more specifically, the meaning of your life. The meaning of your life fits into the meaning of all life. So we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. So quickly, a bit about my story as it relates to this topic. I felt very fortunate from a young age with my religious upbringing. I had a lot of answers given to me through my faith tradition and the doctrines there that I still hold to today. Answers to questions like, where do we come from? Why are we here? Where are we going after this life? What is the purpose of this life? What is the nature of good and evil? Some meaningful answers to those kinds of questions that again, I still hold to many of those ideas today. But I didn't always have that, even though I had it from a young age. So I just want to express to you that I feel I still remember the very palpable, the very tangible inward feelings of feeling lost and feeling this like terror almost, of this trepidation of tension inside, like not knowing who I am, like what the purpose of life even is. So again, I have felt the uncertainties of those things at an early age, but I also had a lot of them satisfied at an early age too. But then it was many years after that I didn't really have a purpose and understanding for my personal life. Again, there's a difference between the meaning of life, of all life, and the meaning of your life. The meaning of your life, again, fits into the meaning of all life. And I didn't have that for a long time, but eventually I, through a lot of sacrifice, a lot of really hard, challenging things, and seeking, I found a very meaningful purpose for my own life that even evolved into a mission and a vision for the future. So anyway, I just want to express that even though I have obtained some of these most precious things that we can have in this life, it wasn't always that way. So anyway, let's keep going on here. I want to go over some fast definitions that are going to apply to a lot of the rest of the things that we go over here. So crisis, what even is a crisis? Well, crisis is a type of event that is unstable and dangerous for an individual, group, community, or society. Meaning, now this is a really interesting one. Meaning comes from perceiving and interpreting cause and effect of reality. It's really based in fact or perceived fact. Okay, so we're just going to keep that as a definition. That's a kind of a deep thing to even just consider right there. Like, what is even the definition of meaning? But meaning is really not something that we necessarily produce on our own. It's something that I just heard this a philosopher give another angle on his definition of it. The meaning needs to be reflected back to us, and that's just another way of saying what I just stated here as far as this definition. So meaning is a very interesting concept. Purpose is after meaning. Meaning comes before purpose. Purpose is subordinate or after meaning. So purpose, a unique, meaningful participation in improvement through giving and receiving towards a desired outcome. You could even simplify that further, that it's a purpose is some sort of desired outcome. That is my purpose. That's their purpose. That's your purpose. Whatever that may be. Story. This is a really interesting thing. We will cover more about this in just a moment. But a story. What is a story? What makes up a story? What are the elements of a story? A character in a place with desires and who does something about it, who goes on a journey to fulfill those desires. That is a story. Somebody that is doing things, traveling on a journey to fulfill desires that are in a place, and, well, they are a character. They're a person. Okay, or a thing. Okay, so some examples, just moving on here, some symptoms or examples of the crisis of meaning. I'll go through this pretty quick here. Spiritual malnourishment, empty, lost feelings of stuck, lacking mission, low joy, despite possible external success even. Identity issues, difficult finding satisfying partners, just relationships, fewer quality relationships, possibly many superficial relationships, especially with social media, etc. It's funny, a lot of people seem to not even know their neighbors anymore. And I'm actually kind of in that camp. My next door neighbors, we've been here for like 9 years almost, and I've only talked to my next door neighbors like once or twice, and it's kind of interesting. There's a little bit more of a reason behind that. In my unique circumstance, I know my other neighbors, but anyway, my next door neighbors don't know as well as some of the other neighbors. So, kind of interesting. Depression, substance abuse, and self-harm. We'll avoid the word for the algorithm here. Addiction to many different things, but addiction to entertainment and escapism, especially drowning in entertainment. Knowledge is at our fingertips, but not becoming one with the most beneficial things that you could even discover in life. People doing less independent thinking, and if you don't do independent thinking, you definitely will experience less inspiration. AI is starting to do everyone's thinking, especially for the younger generations going to college and stuff. It's pretty scary. We would also see big swings to what was before. We got extreme stuff happening now. So a lot of people are saying, whoa, this is crazy. We don't like this. So, whoa, let's go back to what we knew before. And in a lot of ways, that for just one example, return to church movement. And that's good in a lot of ways, but it comes with concerns, because if we run back to the same sources that didn't overcome or stop the problems that are happening now, well, how is it going to solve anything new? So, and that's and in my belief, just a quick belief on that, I don't believe that that's true religion or true Christianity, especially. I don't believe that that's true godliness's fault. It's the problem with running back to something like church is churches, from my perspective, and that's what you're going to hear here, is full of false traditions, ideas and philosophies of mankind, tainting the ideas and the truths that God has given to us. So there's a problem with that. We'll also see the attack on foundational things like family, gender roles, economic, just even fiscal responsibility principles for economic things, resource management, etc. So many different things that I'm definitely not claiming they were always great, but definitely in a lot of ways better than what we're experiencing today. Okay, so the main idea of all this is if enough individuals are affected by a crisis of meaning, then society degrades and the crisis compounds. Okay. By the way, for any of these different topics that we're covering here, I know I'm just touching on a lot of these things that we could go so deep on, but if you have any questions or you're like, hey, that was really interesting, or hey, that wasn't very clear, like drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know, like you would like to have this explored more, or something that wasn't very clear, etc., etc. And that will help me to know what people are looking for, so we can create a much more helpful future content. That would be great if you would be willing to do that. All right, so what is meaning? Let's dive into that a little bit deeper. And where does meaning come from? Okay. So as we defined basically before, meaning comes from an observation and experience interpretation with reality, seeing how things really are, at least as best as we are able to perceive accurately how things really are. And that's a whole discussion in and of itself. But so I understand that deserves a better discussion. But anyway, so how is purpose related? So we already kind of covered that. Pardon if I overlap a little bit in here. I've been putting this together for like weeks, and now just getting this to a place where I felt confident I could actually give the presentation. So purpose, again, is related. It stems from meaning. When we start to see how the real world works, it starts to give us ideas of, oh, okay, well, that was good. That was helpful. That was beneficial. Things got better with that. Or, oh, that was not good. That didn't turn out well. I didn't like that. Let's stay away from that. So then you start to get desires to pursue pleasurable things, or desires to stay away from painful things. So that's, again, a little bit more on the relationship between meaning and purpose. Now, here's where we get to story. Story, how does story fit into things? Meaning, purpose, story. Story is the fundamental lens through which we perceive meaning. Okay, the fundamental lens through which we perceive meaning. Meaning really is solidified, crystallized, galvanized, if you will, through the framework of a story. And what is a story? A story is a character in a place who wants something and does something about that. Okay. All right. So that is going to set us up for this very next section here, the crisis. What has happened? Like why, we've got a bit of an understanding of what meaning is and where it comes from. So what we've had foundational meaning in society for literally thousands of years. Basically the same foundational stories that have given us meaning, or that we've derived meaning from. So let's talk more about this. So what happened with this crisis? The foundational stories that have glued families, nations, cultures together for generations, literally thousands of years, we're mainly talking about the stories of the Bible. Jordan Peterson, if you listen to him, I like a lot of his stuff. He put it really well. He says, for better or worse, the stories that we have founded our society on, or that we have been participating in, have been the stories of the Bible, both the Old and New Testament, for thousands of years. And those are under attack, and they're being abandoned. And in their place, we've been sold shallow, inadequate substitutes, or counterfeit wisdom. Okay? Counterfeit wisdom is really the big enemy here, and the people that knowingly promote it. Counterfeit wisdom, ideas that look attractive but starve the soul. They work a bit, to a greater or lesser degree. Sometimes they can work a lot, but then they fail. Especially if those counterfeit ideas are bought from trusted authorities, then people tend to double down on those things and suffer longer. To remain consistent with our identity, which is one of the strongest psychological human needs that we have. If we are listening to authority figure and we got something from them, well, we want to trust in them. So we will keep doing the idea that they gave to us, whether they know it was false, partially false or not. Because we want to stay connected and have a trusted source of authority, we'll double down on those kinds of ideas, and think that it's us not doing things right, or some misunderstanding, or we just need to do it longer, and we'll keep going. I'm going to refrain on giving some examples for that, but there's a lot of contradictions. I'll give one example. You are perfect the way you are. You're not broken. You're perfect the way you are. Ooh, man, we could talk about that for a long time. So I'll just give you a quick little idea to hopefully give you a taste for what a better perspective on that would be. Humanity is very broken. We desire things that are absolutely terrible for us and for those that are in our circle of influence so much of the time. We are very fearful of any kind of pain, and pain is required for improvement. Improvement requires seeing the bad stuff that we are doing in our life and changing that, and that is painful so much of the time. Not all the time, but so much of the time. We are basically fractured in following what we genuinely or sincerely believe would be the best thing to do. And that is a fundamental flaw or brokenness, if you will, of humanity. So I wasn't planning on talking about that for so long. That's a whole nother video I'm planning on making in the future. But that's just one example. It's one of the literally biggest ones. Okay, so all sources of meaning, continuing on here, have been infiltrated. Religion, politics, philosophy, psychology, self-help, education, healthcare, pop culture, entertainment. All of them have been sources of meaning, different angles and etc. that we've been able to derive meaning from. But they have all been infiltrated. They've all been tainted and corrupted. The crisis of meaning, main point here, it was manufactured. This is not an accident. It is by design. Not everybody that is promoting counterfeit wisdom, these false ideas, not everybody is consciously aware of what they're doing. So we need to have patience with that. But there are people that absolutely know what they're doing. And there's one individual that knows exactly what they're doing. And I'll leave it to you to guess who that is. So we've talked about stories. We've got two main stories. That's basically it. Two stories that you can participate in, and there's just so many different variations of these stories. Here they are. Your life for my gain. Increasing power and pleasure of the self at the expense of others. Kind of a mechanism is, your own desire is king. Do what thou wilt. In scriptural terms, in themes, this is the theme of a Babylonian society, kingdom of the devil, if you will. Second story, my life for your gain. Increasing the beneficial power and joy of others at the expense of self, or at the expense of more immediate short-term gratification. Mechanism is restraining and sacrificing gratification for greater benefit. Again, these are such deep ideas, and I've got a lot more examples and angles that we could come at these from. But for example, some scriptural themes here, religious themes. Zion is the society of this story, and or the kingdom of heaven. Okay. Wow. So again, got future presentations planned on for that. So let's see if we can finish this out here before it gets too long. The mechanics, why the counterfeits fail. Counterfeit ideas solve some problems. We kind of already went over this, but let's just touch on it one more time. Counterfeit ideas solve some problems, but they hit limits. When they fail, people cling harder because they have trusted that authority, and we already discovered that or explored that a bit. Faulty ideological lenses, gaslighting, causes gaslighting, hiding truth or hiding better perspective on things, clouding, distorting what is actually important. And this blocks perception of reality and meaning. We got up here our little emoji character. There's a reason why I chose these images here. This little emoji is experiencing the crisis of meaning, and it looks like a cloudiness. It's hard to see and discern the truth of things to obtain meaning and purpose and satisfaction in life, reaching one's full potential. Consumerism. Here's just some interesting ideas to consider. Consumerism is the perfection of slavery of effort. I heard that one from somewhere. These other ones I kind of came up with on my own, you could say. Relativism is the perfection of slavery of meaning, purpose, and identity. Endless entertainment is the perfection of slavery of the imagination. And, those are just some interesting things to consider there. Again, this crisis of meaning is designed to enslave us. If this state can be achieved here in this call-out idea, then that's what the bad baddies want. The idea here is willingly trapping people by getting them to choose being trapped, unknown to them fully. They may have some idea, but it's they're keeping them in the dark as far as what they are willing to commit themselves to, which leads to them getting trapped bit by bit, slowly by slowly. You may have heard of the analogy of the frog being put into boiling water will jump out versus a frog being put into just warm water and slowly turning up the heat, they'll boil to death. Common analogy that's used. All right, so what to do? We have to expose and overcome the counterfeit wisdom, restore meaning and potential that was stolen, and make it better than before. How do we do this? Well, we have to return and connect with God. God is the source of all meaning, and we connect to God through perceiving truth, how things really are. But a little bit more of how that more detail looks like is connecting with God by reaching your full potential. You can't reach your full potential if you're not perceiving how things really are, getting meaning, accurate meaning, and perceiving that, and then producing meaningful purpose and mission-driven action in your life. So hero mastery, basically, in a kind of some simple terms here, is to know God through knowing yourself and mastering the hidden forces that shape your life through seeing divine design. When you see divine design, you start to see the invisible things that are affecting your life. When you can see it, you can change it. And you come to know yourself more, and therefore come to know God more. And everything is restored back to a place that is so much more meaningful and rich. So we got to restore, along with all these, restore the essential human stories. But they must be improved, or at least our understanding of them must be improved. We have to remove false traditions. We have to remove the precepts of men, philosophies of mankind that got mixed in and corrupted more pure, accurate versions of the essential stories. And then they got to be reintegrated into us better than before. We got to have better than before understanding and better than before living of those stories. So, in closing here, if this resonates with you, you have likely bought into something of what has been sold, or you know people that have, or you are feeling the effects of people that have, and perhaps are not quite as sure what has been going on with all this craziness. So we all have a responsibility, whether we have been trapped by this crisis of meaning, whether we see others that we care about, especially in our circle of influence, experiencing this crisis of meaning, or whether we're experiencing, the societal effects of it, because we all are experiencing one of those different things. Pardon me. Remember that we were deceived. And I believe that God is giving us the tools, the light, and the knowledge to overcome this crisis of meaning and to not have to participate in it. It is going to get worse in the world, but again, as I've said a number of times, it doesn't have to get worse for you. So welcome again to Hero Mastery, where we cover a practical spiritual path to achieve your full potential, your heroic character, and connect to God and receive a restoration of the full potential that has been stolen from so many of us, and that is deeply affecting society today. So that is it. Thanks so much for sticking around. This is a bit of a long presentation, so thank you so much if you stuck around to the end. Please, again, comment, subscribe if you haven't, if you found this helpful, of course. And comment on what things you'd like covered more in depth, and we'll definitely be sure to cover those. So until next time, live your greatest adventure. Thanks again.